Usually most rookies have a really, really difficult entrance and transition period to the NBA. There's a lot of issues that comes with it. There's the fact that their efficiency is going to be a little wonky because of the extended three-point line and the competition they'll have to face. Their ball handling might not be up to par because all of a sudden they're going from getting guarded by guys who physically might not be all the way there yet, to all of a sudden being guarded by teams that are employing 6'5" and plus wings and guards, and teams that are much better at game planning for you, and teams that have players that are just much more skilled than your average college player is. But sometimes there are rookie classes where you see one or even more guys that have just come into the NBA and they seem like they're completely ready for the transition. And I think that this year's rookie class actually had at least three of them. I think we actually have had a really good rookie class, but I really want to point out this big three. And that three,
Texas was feeling.
And those three specifically are Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, and VJ Edgecombe. As a big Sixers guy, I have been really invested into VJ Edgecombe and his development. I remember watching him in the summer league. I got made fun of this, but I was saying he's a confident ball handler. And what I was saying by that is, a lot of times with rookies, you'll see it's like they don't have that aggressiveness. They don't have that. It's harder for them to want to go get those big time shots in the clutch, or to go attack. When a team puts a number one defender on you. Because as a first option, a lot of times you're going to be seeing coverages that are just way more different than what most rookies are going to go through. And these three have seen those coverages plenty of times, especially VJ and Cooper Flagg, honestly, too. He's seen those much more consistently. But we've seen VJ kind of have that situation where he's behind 2 to 3 other guys as like their clear like fourth option. But those guys have been dealing with things like injury and suspension, so he's had games where he's had to be that number one option. I don't know if you guys remember the Blazers game. He had to face against Kamara, who's one of the premier perimeter defenders in the league right now. And that's like a game where it shows like the difference between a rookie who's confident enough with the ball in his hands to go make a bucket, to go get a bucket, make a play when you have number one option defenses looking at you. Or he just had a 35-point game against the OKC Thunder, who were fully healthy, by the way, outside of AJ Mitchell missing the game for suspension. But they still had their guys like Lou Dort and Jalen Williams out there who, Kassan Wallace, Alex Caruso, all those premier perimeter defenders who are going to be, going at those number one options. And he's consistently been able to make that play. He's shooting at a pretty good clip from three this year. He's shooting at 36% from three, which is great. That's great. That's been definitely the most surprising thing. Coming into the league, I feel like a lot of people were expecting him to be more of a slasher type of guy, which he is. That's his game. But for him to take such a leap as far as 3-point shooting goes and just be consistent knocking down 3-point threat this year has been the biggest thing. He's shooting that on about 6 attempts a game, which is great. And he's still also shooting 82% from the charity line. Now, while he's only shooting 3 a game or so, that's still great. These are very good, very promising shooting percentages. And talking about shooting, I think this is a good point to talk about Con Knipple. This is probably the best 3-point shooting rookie season we've ever seen. This is crazy how good of a 3-point shooter that he is. He's shooting 43% on 8 3-pointers a game. That's crazy. That's not rookie level. That's superstar 3-point shooter level. For a guy to come into the league and shoot this efficiently from the 3-point line is crazy. He's on the cusp of a 50-40-90 season in his rookie year. He's shooting 48% from the field, 43% from 3, and 86% from the charity line. That is ridiculous. You don't see that happen much. That efficiency is great for all-stars, much less a rookie coming in onto a Charlotte Hornets team that a lot of people really didn't have that much of expectations. And this Hornets team has been one of the best teams in the league since January. Now, they have dropped the past 2 games, but those past 2 games have been dropped to really good teams, to be fair, in the Celtics and the Sixers, 2 also of the hottest teams in the league right now. And moving on to Cooper Flagg, while he does not have that same efficiency from 3 at least, as far as everything else goes, he's still shooting 47% from the field and 81% from three. I mean, 81% from the charity line. If you're shooting 81% from three, that'd be ridiculous. But for him to shoot that well from the free throw line is really good, because I feel like even with lower shooting percentages, especially from three, if the guy can shoot pretty well from the charity line, that shows that he's got really good mechanics. So that might just be a thing of trying to adjust, and he's also young. So, he's only going to get better. He's only 19 years old, which is crazy to look at. None of these guys are really that old. VJ and Khan are both only 20 years old. Cooper's 19. So these are guys that do have very much a lot of time to get better. This isn't like a guy like J-Dub who came into the league a little bit older, so he was a lot better. Like, no, these are guys that have that same upside while also being like very young. So a lot of their talent is still really raw. And speaking on Cooper Flag, 20 points a game. On a Dallas Mavericks team that suffered with injury, it's got some weird roster looks, and he's like just clearly the number one guy. And for him to still average this, and he's still an elite defender, that's like a big part of why he was recruited so high, because he was such an elite defender at such a young age. Like, that defense is going to be able to help him stay at the top of the league for a long time, and just looking at all three of these guys, and while Khan isn't as great as a defender, watching Hornets games, you'll see a lot of teams do try and pick on him, go at him, and just realize he's really not a bad defender by all means. He's not an elite defender. He's definitely the worst defender out of the three, but he's still like not terrible. He's not a liability, which is something you can always want. Having a 6'6" guard like this, 6'6" guard forward, who is a solid defender while also being such an elite dead-eye shooter, is like, that's perfect for today's game. Like, he's going to have a long career simply based off of those. And that's not even talking about him adding any better ball handling and shot creation of his own. VJ Edgecombe, defensively, he's been great. He's been a great perimeter defender for this Sixers team, And that's been a big part of why the Sixers look so good when fully healthy, because you'll have, him, Kelly Oubre, Paul George as far as perimeter defense goes, and then Joel Embiid in the back, ready at the rim. And all of these guys are doing this in good minutes too, like 30 minutes plus for each of them. So this isn't, a short amount of time, and they're really not playing that much. So their minutes, so you kind of have to scale their minutes. Like, no, these guys are doing this in 30 minutes a game, and that's really promising. Again, like, I think that's always a big thing when you look at rookies, is like, how much time are they doing this in? And these guys are able to play these 30-minute games. None of them. And they're playing a decent amount of games too. They're all over 60 games by this point. So they should all very clearly make the Rookie of the Year threshold and everything. And especially with VJ, any Sixers fans will tell you, Nick Nurse has him playing a lot. We've seen, especially in the beginning of the season, had him playing like 40 minutes a game. And then when Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, and Joel Embiid were out, he was playing up to like 40 minutes a game because he was their number one option. And again, super promising. I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about each of them specifically and what they could be to be a little bit better going into the next couple of seasons. Obviously, with Cooper Flag, it's going to be like trying to figure out that three-pointer. As soon as he adds that to his game, it's like really going to be like the sky's the limit for this guy. It's hard to see, especially because of how he's going to be on certain different team builds. Because it's like these other guys, Khan and VJ, they have like elite like offenses around them. Khan, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, like having those types of guys around him makes this a lot easier, especially having a guy like LaMelo Ball who's like able to run an offense and set up an offense a lot better. VJ Edgecombe has a guy like Tyrese Maxey next to him right now. So he's going to be able to play off of him a lot more. He's got Joel Embiid next to him right now. He's got Paul George. So while we might see a drop in like his counting numbers, his efficiency might go up and he might be able to get better options. And, Paul George and Joel aren't going to be on the Sixers forever. Anybody can tell you that. They're getting up there in age. People were talking about Joel Embiid should medically retire like earlier this year. And while he's made a crazy great comeback story, he's very clearly not going to be around forever. So we're going to be talking about, I say that like he's going to die, but no, he's just going to retire. But VJ is going to eventually step into an option where he's the number two, where he's the true number two behind Tyrese Maxey. But going back to Cooper Flagg again, on these minutes played, you could see he's just logging a whole lot of minutes, which is always great. And you'll see the efficiency does get a little weird at times, but even at his worst, it's still hovering around 30-something%. And as I said, these efficiency numbers aren't going to be the best for these guys, especially when he fixes his 3-point shot and he adds that to his game. It'll be a lot better. We've seen guys take 3-point leaps. We have a rookie the two other rookies in this race are shooting elite from three, so it's not unheard of for these guys to shoot pretty well. Over his last 10, he's still averaging 22 points on 48% from the field. That's just great, And he's showing a consistent amount of growth too, I want to say. Watching his game, it's been easy to see him become a lot more confident and comfortable. Again, the free throws, it's really good to look at. This is a really promising thing. So it's a lot. So I think going into next year, we'll see especially if this team can get some real guard play around him. As he gets older, we're gonna see him with better teams, better coverages around him. He's gonna be able to read these coverages a lot more. I think he'll be fine. I don't know if he's gonna win Rookie of the Year this year because of Khan's historical year. And we'll talk about Khan right now. He's been kind of having an off game lately. His game's been a little off lately. He's had a rough couple of days. But that's kind of expected. Most players have slumps, right? Most players are going to have slumps. Even in the last 10, even though it's been he's having an off time, it's still shooting 41% from the three. That's still great. It's still good. Even if he has these slumps, even if you're just gonna, having back-to-back stinkers sucks, but especially when the Hornets are really looking to make their playoff push right now. But even then, that's number one, that's not all on him. He's not this team's best player, so it's not gonna be all his fault. As well as the fact that he's a rookie, he should be expected to have certain shooting slumps. He shouldn't be shooting this well anyways, if we're being honest. So, when you look at him, you think going into the next season, the sky's the limit for this guy. Because usually players get better 3-point shooting as they go higher. So for him to be this good already, for him to be an Iron Man like this, playing 74 games already, he's going to be fine going into the next season, VJ, I'm a big fan of him. I'm a really big fan of his game. Number 77 is cold as hell. He's been one of the best clutch players in the league. That's his thing right now. Out of these three, he's shown that he's just built for the moment. It feels like whenever you watch Sixers game, he's always got at least one big time clutch three, and he's consistently showing that he's ready to make the plays when the ball swung to him in the moment. Even because, as I was saying, even with all those guys back around him, a big part of it is going to be, okay, we're going to need one game out of you in this playoff series, where you just take over. Or there's going to be a lot of times where that ball gets swung to you and you're going to have to make that play. Or you're going to have to go out there and play and just lock up, play some defense. And he's been consistently doing that, He's been a great option. He's been a great second option behind Tyrese. He's been a great third option when Joel's there, fourth when Paul George is on, And he's shown that he can play around, some of these really good players. Over his last 10, he's averaging 20 points. And that was because he was the number one option. He's showing that when he's the number one option, he can play like a number one option. And it's been great. I think these guys have been three really great picks for their teams. It's really funny to look at Cooper Flagg and VJ and man, these teams that were just off of finals appearances, MVPs, just get to add top 3 picks, really good ones too. And I think they're going to be really able to help their teams. That sounds stupid. VJ is going to help the Sixers be a contender this year. If they really want to make a run, he's going to be a big part of it. The Hornets are going to be looking even better. maybe in 2 years we're talking about this team as like a legitimate title contender, right? Cooper Flag, Mavericks too. You know, talk about a couple years they could be a title contender behind him. So yeah, I think these three are just three of the most NBA ready rookies I've ever seen. You know, we see like maybe one or two every once in a while. You know, like yeah, we've seen rookie of the year races where it's like Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama, but that doesn't happen much. You know, that doesn't happen like all the time. You know, like Paulo Banchero and J-Dub were another duo. You know, and then we've had like rookie year winners where they come into the league looking NBA ready, like Ben Simmons, Luka, Ja. You know, like guys that make immediate impact. KD, Damian Lillard, Kyrie, LeBron, obviously. You know, AI, Vince Carter. Like you see this happen a lot, and a lot of times there might be like one or two guys, but I feel like this year it's been like all three of these guys have been just kind of, they've been just terrific. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of use a video to talk about like these three super NBA ready rookies. Sorry for the been a couple of days without posting. I'll get right back on it, I promise. Thank you guys for listening or watching as always, and I will see y'all later.